The Brailliant 32 is actually sold on the online Apple store. And we've been having many conversations with Apple about a good companion device for the iPhone. And so this is really where the Brailliant 14 kind of fits. It's really designed for the mobile user. It's designed for the blind professional, the blind iPhone user. I mean, really, this device is for any iPhone user that's out there. I mean, we say iPhone. Down the road, we probably will have an Android app. But the reality is that something like 90% of blind people use iOS devices. And so we wanted to start there. The blind student now has all the control. They can do their math assignment. They can print it out just like they print out anything else, or they can email it, or they can do any of that kind of stuff.
For more podcasts with the blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities, and download our free Blind Abilities app from the App Store. That's 2 words, Blind Abilities.
I was like, oh, that's how sighted people put stuff together, is like half the time they don't even follow the instructions. They just look at a picture.
Welcome to Blind Abilities. I'm Jeff Thompson. Today we'll be talking to Greg Stilson, and he's the Senior Product Manager at HumanWare. Greg will be talking about the Brailliant 14. It's a new device that'll be shipping at the end of June, and it's an on-the-go mobile device that is a companion for the iPhone. Can't wait to check it out. Greg is also an Aira explorer, using the virtual navigator for the blind. Greg will be talking about some of the applications that he has utilized this Aira solution. We also talk about Greg's 10 years at HumanWare, how he started out, where he is now. So you'll get a little bit of human, a little bit of wear, put it together, that's HumanWare. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Greg Stilson. How you doing, Greg?
Good, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
So Greg, I heard it through a little Twitter bird, that you are now an Aira explorer.
I am.
The virtual interpreter for the blind.
Yep.
And that you put together a hammock using Aira. Really?
I did. It's so funny because I tweeted that at Aira, and I'm still one of those people that I have no idea how Twitter works. So now, like yourself and like a few other people came back and they're like, wow, you put together a hammock. And I'm like, how the hell did you know that? And then I realized, oh, wait, the Twitterverse kind of thing taking over. So, I mentioned to the folks at Aira, HumanWare is always watching what new trends are coming in technology and things like that. So we have a budget that's actually designed just to explore new products and try new products and things like that. So since the beginning of the year, basically took that budget and said, here, Greg, we're going to sign you up for Aira and just use it for a while and see what you think. And so I've been relatively impressed with what it does.
Yeah, I've heard Aira's beta program is doing pretty good.
The thing is they're doing a great job, great customer service. Honestly, like I've never talked to a single person there who's seeming to have a bad day or anything like that. They all have awesome training, and they seem to have really good orientation and mobility terminology as well for blind people. So it seems like the training is going really well there. One thing that I've noticed really as much as I travel is the airports. The airport situation, they are absolutely golden at. And the fact that I can be in O'Hare Airport and I can get in at like gate F7 and I have to go to C31, which is on the complete other side of O'Hare, and I'm able to do that independently with the Aira glasses. I don't have to wait for an assistant to help me or whatever. Like it's super helpful.
So tell me, Greg, you just connect up and boogie along.
Literally, dude, all I do is you put the glasses on, you connect it up to this little like MiFi thing that provides the data for you because the video takes a lot of data and they don't want to use your cell phone data. You literally just call in an agent. I have an earbud that I put in my ear. I just say I'm at this gate in O'Hare Airport, and what's cool is that they have these virtual maps that they pull up of the airport so that they get a sense of where you are and where you need to go. Mm-hmm. And so you say, okay, I'm at F7 and I need to get to C22, and they look at the map, and one screen they have the map and the other screen they have your video, and they just start to navigate you, and they say, okay, you got to go down this hallway, you're going to go down F, and you have to get to the to the B bridge, and then you have to go to the underground tunnel and blah, blah, blah. And they're literally navigating. It's so cool. I mean, in some respects, the closest I've used them is in Denver Airport. I had a 39-minute layover in Denver Airport. I had to get from like gate 60 to gate 12. I literally said to the guy, I was like, all right, we got to run, and you got to tell me where to go. And that's literally what we did. I started kind of running, and he's like telling me, okay, you're approaching gate 45, 39, 20, or whatever it was. And
pretty fast running.
Yeah, exactly. But what's nice about that is that, you know, my vision's so bad, like I don't even try to rely on it anymore. And what's nice is that when I get to the gate, if I can't hear where the desk is, like if there's not a printer going on, or you can't tell where the line is or something like that, what's nice is that they're able to see that, and they're saying, okay, the desk is 1 o'clock for where you are, and you can at least get some navigation ideas.
Yeah, I've talked to quite a few explorers, and one of the things is like when you're at a hotel, finding the elevators, finding your room, or even checking out your room where the orientation is, like where's the plugins, where's this, where's that, and setting the thermostat, setting the air conditioner.
It'll be interesting to see what kind of noise they make it at the NFB convention this year. They've already started asking for advice on what they should be doing, what kind of activities. Aira is I was joking with the agent who I was talking to when I was building the hammock, is that I said, you guys are going to get crushed by calls, because for many people that convention is the only trip that they take all year. And there's a lot of people that may not be familiar with layouts of hotels and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
And that service would be a huge asset to a lot of people. Help me find the ballroom, help me find this, and my guess, at least, I was talking to the guy. I said you should have that hotel map like always available as like one of your favorites, so that you can pull it up on the screen for somebody right away.
Oh yeah.
Because for those conventions, I'm sure they're just getting inundated with calls trying to find X, Y, and Z. But that's what that service is designed for, is for the people who really want to do some exploring or some trying new things. One of the things I mentioned that I'm really looking forward to, the environment that I struggle in, is farmers markets. My wife really loves to do that kind of stuff, but knowing what each stand has, and without needing to actually walk up to every single stand and be like, what do you got? What do you got? What do you got? These glasses allow you, they can just say, okay, off to your right is a stand selling something,
Wow.
The nice thing is that they're going to be around now for a while.
We got to build more hammocks.
It was one of those things where I was like, I opened the box and I was like, I can't see the picture on how this looks. And I mean, me, Jeff, I am not a handy person at all. Like, I'm half the time I don't know where my darn screwdriver is. So,
dude, you just built a hammock. I mean,
yeah, but what's really cool about that is like this guy. So I had the instructions, and I was like, I have no idea what the picture looks like and what the frame is even supposed to look like. I envisioned it as having like two kind of like, ends of the hammock that were separate, and then they would be like staked into the ground or something like that. I didn't realize that it would be like kind of this like connected base that the thing would sit in, essentially. And so what he did is, rather than try to, because I had the instructions and he was looking at them, he's like, dude, I can't even follow these. So what he did is he pulled it up on Amazon and described the picture to me, and he looked at all the parts, and we were able to go from there. So he wasn't even reading the instructions. He was just looking at a picture. But like, it was a reality check for me, because I was like, oh, that's how sighted people put stuff together, is like half the time they don't even follow the instruction. They just look at a picture,
Right. Especially guys. Last thing you do. Read the instructions.
Read the instructions, exactly. I told the guy, I was like, now I'm waiting for the day when somebody buys like an IKEA bureau or something and calls up Aira and is like, I have this 5,000 piece thing. Help me put it together.
Michael Hinson put together a bureau from IKEA.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. I think it was a cart, more of a cart, not the whole bureau, bureau, but a cart. So they're starting to do stuff like that.
Oh, man. So it's an interesting concept. And that's really why HumanWare is interested, is to see kind of where Sometimes it pays to be the first on the market, and it pays to be, we did that with the Braille Note Touch as the first Braille tablet ever to be created. Mm-hmm. And that's big. That makes a lot of benefits in the market. And in what I always look at is this a known market? Is this something that we're already familiar with? And the answer with the Braille market is yes, we know that market very well. But when it comes to wearable technology and what's beneficial, sometimes, it helps to kind of sit back and watch how things are being received and where that market is trending. So that and Apple does this a lot. They did this with the watch market, for example. They sat back and kind of watched the Galaxy Gear come out and the Android Wear and the Pebble and that kind of stuff. And then they launched the Apple Watch, and that's been generally more successful than a lot of them. And so, in this case, that's why we have this budget, is to kind of check out and see what's going on in the market and see what's going well, what's not, where's the needs going, beyond that.
Well, Greg, from the announcement that you made in Germany, it seems like you found that there's a new niche market for the new device that you're coming out, the Brailliant 14.
Yeah, Site City was kind of what you would call like a soft launch or an introduction. The product isn't shipping yet. We're planning on shipping by the end of June is our target. But yeah, the European, it was my first time at that show. So I had never been to Site City before, but this is a market where we had not been in, and we were sort of observing how the small Braille displays were being received in that market. And the Brailliant 14, we wanted to come out with a small display, and I'm not sure if you know, but the Brailliant 32 is actually sold on the online Apple store. And we've been having many conversations with Apple about a good companion device for the iPhone and things like that. And so this is really where the Brailliant 14 kind of fits. It's a really small device. I have it on my desk here, and when I was at Site City, I would carry it around in my jacket pocket. So it's small. It fits in the jacket pocket, but it's got all the ergonomics and the thumb keys. And what I actually find really useful is we put a little joystick between dots 1 and 4, a little bit behind dots 1 and 4, and it's strategically placed there so that you can kind of do your typing, but then when you're using the iPhone, that joystick actually simulates the finger gestures as well, swiping gestures. So if you flick it right, it's like you swipe right on the screen. So there's almost no movement of your hands between the time that you're typing and the time that you're using that joystick to flick left, right, up, or down to navigate between items. Because oftentimes when you're using the iPhone, you're filling out a form or something and you need to type in a username and then swipe right and type in a password, that kind of stuff. So you can do all that without really needing to move your hands.
So you just flick it to the right and it's just like moving to the next item.
Exactly. Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
Where this thing is really going to shine is the note synchronization. So we didn't want to just release another small Braille display. We wanted to bring something else to the table, and that was the note synchronization. I see sighted people when they go to meetings, they bring their notebooks. And, they take their notes and they go back and they write up some action items and stuff like that. And that's really what this notes function is for. It's like a little notepad for a blind person. But what's really cool about that is that it's got an embedded Braille translator. So we are using Duxbury, so you don't have to just write in computer Braille. It's not just a text file that you have to type in computer Braille. But it's actually using your email to synchronize the notes across all your platforms. So we have an app on the App Store called the Brailliant Sync app that you basically sign in with your email address and password. And so I have my Gmail tied to it right now. I could use Microsoft Exchange if I wanted to or whatever else. And you can go into a meeting, take your notes on your Brailliant. I don't have to have a pairing with my phone or anything like that. Take my notes. The next time I pair with my phone to send a text message or send an email or something like that, the notes that I just took will actually synchronize across any device that uses my email account. So, for example, the notes that I just took will synchronize to my iPhone Notes application. It'll also synchronize to my Microsoft Outlook under my Notes folder in my email account. So it kind of happens on the fly. You never know that it's really even happening. But all of a sudden you'll look in your notes folder or your notes app on your phone and see that, oh, those notes that I took in that meeting are there. And if I want to edit them, modify them, things like that, you can do that on your computer or your iPhone or whatever. And then it'll sync back to your Brailliant the next time you pair up to send a text message or something.
Kind of like a Brailliant on-the-go type of device.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it's really designed for the mobile user. It's designed for the blind professional, the blind iPhone user. I mean, really, this device is for any iPhone user that's out there. I mean, we say iPhone. Down the road, we will have an Android app, but the reality is that something like 90% of blind people use iOS devices, and so we wanted to start there. That's kind of where we're targeting this product, and the price point is really it's really an available price point. It's going to be priced at $995 US for a 14-cell display. It's as far as I know, it's the first Braille display using the traditional Braille cells that's going to be priced below $1,000.
The crispy, nice feeling Braille cells from HumanWare.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard. That HumanWare does have the best feeling Braille cells.
I mean, that's part of our products, is we strive for the highest quality Braille that's out there. So it's the same cells that you'll find in the existing Brailliants or the Braille Note Touch.
And you got your thumb controls and...
You do, yep. We have the traditional HumanWare thumb keys. What's kind of cool about it is that on the back you have a switch that toggles you between what's called local application mode, the Notes app. There's also a stopwatch on this thing, and you have some internal settings and stuff. So if you flick that left, you'll get into your application mode where you can take notes without a connection to your iPhone. But if you do have a connection to your iPhone, you just flick that switch on the back to the right, and it toggles right into Braille terminal mode. And one of the things that we're also doing that's a little unique about this is we have a separate Bluetooth chip inside that's dedicated to only holding the pairing to whatever device you're connected to. So it's called a Bluetooth low energy module. Mm-hmm. And that allows us to always maintain the pairing to a device like the iPhone. And that's been one of the issues that we've heard about many of these other displays connecting to the iPhone, is that if you lock your screen and then you unlock it later on, like the display may not always pair up, and you have to go back in and reconnect it and repair it. And nobody has that time, if you're in a class or in your meetings or whatever, to be messing around with your iPhone pairings and stuff like that. So this device with that low energy chip, you can pretty much be assured that it's always going to be paired up.
Kind of like the SSD compared to the hard drive. Just bang, there it is.
Yeah.
So you're looking at possibly end of June.
Yeah, end of June is when we're targeting to be shipping. We're going to send out an e-blast if people want to do pre-orders and things like that. We will have units at the NFB and ACB conference to get your hands on and really see how it would work. This is a tool that I could see a lot of iPhone users wanting to use. I use my Braille Note Touch as my primary device. I mean, what's interesting now is actually at Site City, I found that I never turned my laptop on the entire conference. I was using the Braille Note Touch primarily to respond to emails and things like that. And I was using the Brailliant just in the many meetings that we had to quickly take notes, because I was using the Brailliant in many of those meetings to demonstrate it anyways. And so I found that I was taking notes just on that little device, and then using my touch as more of the everyday email work stuff that I was doing. But I got done with that conference and realized, wow, I didn't even open my laptop one time, which I thought as a blind person was actually quite cool.
Considering what we used to pay, this device sits right in between the biggies, and it's an iPhone companion Braille device.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, the touch, the Braille Note is a much more heavy duty product. I mean, it's used by a lot of really young kids, but it's education focused, and it's really for the professional who wants to use a tablet device. The Brailliant 14, first off, it only has 14 cells, so it's much smaller and things like that. And it's meant to be used as a standalone device for note taking, but that's about it. And you're not going to get, I mean, the note taking is literally, Jeff, like like writing on a piece of paper. There's no spell checker, there's no grammar check or any of that kind of stuff. It's literally just like you writing on a piece of paper.
Jotting something down, just bang, bang, you're done.
Exactly. And that's really what we want to do, is we want to make a clear definition between the higher end Braille tablet style of products and things like that, the ones that are going to be used for multiple things, because it's a tablet. I mean, that's what the Touch is a Google certified tablet. But we needed to have another device that is really designed for that mobile user, that user that's whose goal is to do these, everyday tasks like taking notes.
Instantaneously spontaneous.
Yeah, but you want to have a reliable device to use with your phone. If you plan on using your phone for the majority of your other stuff, then the Brailliant 14 is a perfect companion for that. So yeah, that's why we're able to kind of bring that as a much lower price point, and it's a nice package to be able to have your phone in your pocket and your Braille display in your pocket, and not need to carry a backpack or something over your shoulder.
Greg, I was just recently out in Washington, D.C. at a convention, and I was talking to a vendor there, and your name came up. And, he said to me, wow, he's come a long ways. Greg, can you give our listeners a little bit of your journey, where you came from and, your time at HumanWare?
Yeah, it's crazy. I actually this year, not this year, in October of last year, I celebrated 10 years at HumanWare, which is crazy because it feels just like yesterday when I was in Minnesota teaching technology at Blind Ink. So, it's kind of crazy how things have come full circle. I mean, I remember when my school district bought one of the very, very first Braille notes for me, just as I was, finishing up my degree there, or not my degree, but my diploma. And it's just interesting how things kind of come full circle. That last year, my first real from concept to product launch was the Braille Note Touch, and it's just kind of crazy how things come full circle like that. So, but no, you're right. I started at HumanWare in end of 2006, and my job was I was the guy on the other end when you had a problem with your Braille Note, with your Victor reader or something like that. I was the guy that you would call, and if I was that person that you talked to, I'm sorry. It was one of those things where I really enjoyed that job. That's how I met so many people virtually on the phone in this industry. I did that job for probably about 3 or 4 years, and I started to transition more to today. The position is called a product specialist, and it's actually a sales-oriented job. It's really going around the country, traveling and things like that, doing training and doing workshops and things like that, introducing the products to. I did a lot with when we were launching the Deafblind Communicator, if you've ever heard of that product back in 2008. Mm-hmm. It was a product that really turned Braille Note Empower into like a TTY and face-to-face communicator for those who were deaf and blind. And that was really my first major project where I was out of the office, not answering the phones, and kind of face-to-face with customers. And that was such a cool project because myself, I didn't know anything about those who were deaf-blind or the needs or any of that kind of stuff. So that was really my first foray into a bit of product management, because when you look at what a product manager does, much of my job today is collection of feedback and hearing the needs and hearing the demand for X, Y, and Z, and then turning that into tangible requirements. And that's kind of what I did with the Deafblind Communicators. That was a new kind of product. We had some grants to fund that, and it was one of those things where I was able to go out and meet with different people and get an understanding of what they needed and what was valuable for them. And so I did that job, product specialist, for a few years. Did a lot of traveling, actually doing more traveling today than I ever did back then. But in 2011, I started, basically my job was strictly to manage the Braille Note. I was kind of a part-time product manager. And since then, things have kind of just changed and escalated a little bit. And I've now... I'm trying to think what my title actually is. I am Got it right here. Senior Product Manager of Blindness Products. I don't know exactly what that means, but basically where my role is now is anything related to blindness, whether that would be blindness products, would be Braille, digital talking books, our orientation line, any of that kind of stuff, and especially with the roadmap for new products. That's sort of my domain now, and it's a really cool job in that I get to meet so many different people and get to talk to so many different people about, what they do on their daily basis. What kind of jobs are they doing? What kind of classes are they taking? And part of what has kind of stemmed off of this was my real passion for the technology and the science, things that blind people have really struggled with in school and things like that. And so in October of last year, we launched version 2.0 of the Touch, which brought with it an application called KeyMath, which was really the first app to ever be able to, in one device, be able to turn math Braille directly into print on the fly, like right on the screen on the Touch, and be able to actually print out a PDF of perfect looking math for a sighted teacher. And so so that's available on the Touch today. And what's exciting about that is that, the Perkins Brailler is necessary in math, and it's something that I never want to say that we want to replace. But once the student understands the concepts and simply needs to kind of do their math homework, they're able to do this without needing to jump through the hoops of having a sighted TVI translate the Braille dots into print, by writing the print on top of the Braille and the hard copy and getting that turned into the mainstream classroom teacher. So the blind student now has all the control. They can do their math assignment, they can print it out just like they print out anything else, or they can email it, or they can do any of that kind of stuff. They're the ones that's doing all the control there.
Pardon the pun, but math has always been a great division in Braille.
Math it's a challenge. It's always been a challenge. I was one of those kids that really was terrible, and I dreaded science and math. And looking back on it, I wonder how much of my struggles were, I always used to say, I don't have the mind for that, or I don't have the brain for that, or whatever else. I'm wondering how much of that actually was true, and how much of that I told myself just because I wasn't able to see or to grasp the concepts. And so that's something that, this isn't something that Greg Stillson is designing so that things would be easier for Greg Stillson. This is something that we're seeing. I actually took a small tour of some schools early last year, and kind of watched the way that blind kids were doing math. And where our reality check was that they were doing math pretty much the same way that I did math, 20 years ago or whatever it was. So that was sort of a reality check to say, with today's technology, there's got to be an easier way. There's got to be an easier way to keep these kids interested and to keep them wanting to do math. And I mean, you think about what drove you as a student and things like that, and technology was always a big benefit for you wanting to try new things. If at least for me, technology, if I got to play with a new technology toy, I was all ready to do math or do whatever subject I was, if I was getting the option to try a new piece of technology. So yeah, that's kind of where things have gone for me personally. I mean, and the company we're in a great position. I don't know if you're aware, we're part of a mother company now called Essilor. So Essilor is one of the largest manufacturers and maker of ophthalmic lenses. So they make many of the lenses that are in glasses and sunglasses and stuff today. And their mission was that they want to help people in general just see better. We kind of made a pitch to them saying that, okay, that's great, but there's still 2.5% of the world's population that you physically cannot help see better because there's no improving of their vision. So help them see better with assistive technology. And they definitely agreed with us and said, you know what, you guys are doing awesome stuff. And so this is like a 8 billion euro company a year. So, I mean, they're a big company, and they're interested in what we're doing. So it's really cool to be part of that kind of family as well. So from a company perspective, things are going really well.
Well, great. I really think it's great that you guys are out there in the field, visiting the classroom, visiting the customers, visiting the consumer, and seeing what their needs are, experiencing it and taking it back. You're not just sitting in a room thinking, hey, what should we invent today?
We do have one of those rooms, but that's part of the product manager's job, is to let the programmers sit in that room and talk about a bunch of stuff, and then they spit out like a bunch of ideas, and then you're like, all right, now I'm going to take all those ideas that you just came up with in that room and see which ones are actually applicable to the real world.
And there you go. Back of your bags, another flight, another classroom, collecting data, making better products.
It's fun, man.
Well, thanks a lot for coming on to Blind Abilities. Our listeners are surely going to enjoy this information and taking your time out of your busy day. And now maybe you can get back to your hammock. Well, wait. Is it hammock or is it hammock?
Hammock.
Okay, I always get that right. People correct me all the time. Hammock.
Yeah, it's funny because that hammock that I bought, it's raining outside right now, and I had walked out earlier. I was doing some things in the yard, and I looked at that hammock, and I'm like, oh man, this thing collects water like crazy. And I got it for my wife because she's always wanted a hammock as a Mother's, I got it for her as a Mother's Day gift, and I was like, oh yeah, it's gonna be great. And I looked at it today, and there's like a pool of water in the middle of it. Like, I was like, okay, well, we'll be able to use it like a week after it's finally dried out.
Doubles as a wading pool.
Exactly.
Well, Greg, thanks for coming on, and great job on all the innovations and getting these products out to the people that they can use.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for having me on again, and look forward to talking to you next time.
You betcha.
When we share
what we see through
each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap
between the limited expectations and the realities of blind abilities.
The realities of blind abilities.
For more podcasts with a blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities. Download our app from the App Store, blindabilities, that's 2 words, or send us an email at info@blindabilities.com. Thanks for listening.